There is something fundamental you need to know if you want to get back with your ex, and it's probably the reason you're failing at the moment, getting back with your ex, is the idea that the more you try, the more you fail. So it doesn't really help you a lot getting back with your ex when I say those things. And this is why I'm making this video, to explain the psychology behind that and the different actions that you need to follow, that you need to change in your life if you want to get back with your ex and if you want to feel better. Because I know also, as a therapist, I know that there's a lot of mental health aspect of the relationship recovery, and sometimes we forget what we need. Essentially, we are anxious, we are depressed after that breakup, and we are obsessed by this relationship recovery. This is why I'm making this video, also for you to enjoy the process and learn from it and increase your chance of getting back with your ex, obviously. Jingle.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
And so the thinking process right now is, most people have, is if only I could. If only I could talk to my ex. If only I could explain them what I've learned after that breakup. If only I could show them how much I care. Perhaps you were in a relationship and you took your ex for granted for many years, and now you realize, what you've lost. And you want to explain that to your ex. The problem is when you do that, you build up the pressure. You don't respect your ex's need for space and for time, right? So, of course, you need to be less anxious, you need to be less emotional if you want to connect with your ex, because obviously breakups are very emotional. Sometimes people try to use logic to bring their ex back. It doesn't work. Sometimes we are very emotional because we have feelings for that person, but it creates that anxiety, it creates that image of you not being able to take this decision in a mature way. So the problem is, when you build up pressure, your ex will push you back even further. So again, in this video, we're going to have practical tips towards the end. I'm going to show you 10 practical tips, but I want first to explain the psychology and how it works in your ex's mind right now. This is why they broke up. So something, and as I said, it's emotional, it's very unconscious, they felt they had to leave. They had feelings for you. And the caveat is that I'm talking about relationships where you had something special, where you love each other, it was mutual, you shared a lot of values, you had projects together. But for some reason your ex believed, and sometimes, very often it's unconscious, they have to go. It's not working. Could be because of a clash of attachment. They deactivate the attachment, that's how you call it in attachment theory, if they're avoidant. So they don't feel the need to be in a relationship anymore. They feel that there's too much pressure. They are scared of commitment. They don't know exactly what they want, and therefore they feel, I can't really reciprocate the feelings that my ex has for me. And they would say things, you love me more than I do. I don't want you to suffer, and therefore I'm gone. Could be also pressure from external sources, work, family. They don't have enough time to invest in the relationship, or you didn't have enough time to invest in the relationship, which led to different sort of communication issue and so on and so forth. The last one that I see very frequently is the midlife crisis. Some people go through midlife crisis, and they feel that as they go through that crisis, and they see that their life is changing, what they want to do is changing, their objectives in life are changing. Maybe the kids are left home, or they just want to change career. They want to, enjoy life and feel like, okay, I'm not a prisoner anywhere from this old life that I sort of reject now that I'm 40, 50 or 60, really depends. They feel like this relationship is not really what I need right now. And so they feel I've changed, but my partner hasn't. And therefore there's a disconnection with the life that I want and that person. So it's really about working things out. And on all of these aspects, on all of these points, is something that you can address. But it's not something you can address by just getting in touch, trying to convince your ex. It's really about, it needs to be organic, and we'll discuss how to do it in a minute. So something needs to change. And as we discussed on the previous slide, you can change those things. If it's about midlife crisis, it's really about understanding their needs. And knowing, perhaps you realize that you don't want to have this life with them. Or perhaps you feel like, okay, they want to travel the world and sell the house and live on the boat, whatever. If that's something you want to do, you can adapt. If it's about attachment, you can learn, and I'm making a lot of videos on that, how you can be more secure, inspire your ex to be more secure as well. So the thing is, of course, something needs to change. And what we do when something needs to change, we rush at fixing things. In today's society, and I'm going to explain that later, we feel like there's a problem, I put a lot of energy on that problem, it's going to be fixed. Okay? The problem with people, the problem with psychology, is that it takes a bit of time. It took months for your ex to come up with that decision to break up with you. And so breaking up with someone is a process, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of reflection, and therefore healing from a breakup is a process too and requires time. Of course, the pain that you're suffering right now, you really want to reduce that pain. So, of course, there's a massive incentive for you to reduce the number of days apart, because it means reducing the number of days sad and depressed. Right? Makes sense. But the problem is that you're failing to understand that it is a process and it requires time. What I can do is help you make the right decisions and take the right actions so you somehow accelerate the process, but there's a minimum time. You can't really change someone's mind in a minute, in a day. It's not because you're going to have one date with your ex that is going to give, game on and we're back together. It's a process. So, problem is that you are your biggest enemy right now. The problem is the pain, and we all react this way. The pain makes us react in the wrong way. We are in this fight or flight mode, and we are not able to think through. And so very often I have people telling me, I should have told you before I sent that email. So that's why a lot of my clients, I have few clients on WhatsApp, not a lot because I'm very busy at the moment, but I have few clients at the moment on WhatsApp. And very often I tell them, before you send something to your ex, just send it to me. Because you have this impulse, this sort of reaction, this fight or flight, like, I need to connect, I'm scared, he's not replying, I should connect. Send it to me before, and I will use my analytical brain, also my unbiased opinion, to let you know whether it's the right move to do right now. It's very common sense that when we are under stress, when there's a lot of emotion, we are not our best selves, right? So, feeling one more day feels unbearable, and that's why we want to rush, we want to accelerate things, as I discussed. So don't get me wrong, that's totally normal. You're not weird, you're not weak, it's normal. It's a normal reaction to stress, to bad emotions. What you have to do to manage it is to bring awareness. Whenever you have that impulse, it's a little bit when you are binge eating, when you have an addiction, is really trying to slow the process and bring more awareness. What was the trigger? What were you thinking? What are you trying to achieve? One question that I like to ask, what would Alexis do in that case? Or what would Alexis tell me to do in that case? And very often when you ask this question, you feel like, no, it's a bad idea, I'm not going to do it. So that's why, if you're not sure, you can talk with me or someone else to really explore those things usually rooted in your unconscious mind, rooted in things that you developed, insecurities, perhaps if you're an anxious attachment person, where you feel like, any day apart from my partner is unbearable and I need to address that. So it's really important to use also that breakup to learn more about yourself. Here is the paradox. And I mentioned that a little bit before. More effort, more gain. Right? That's how it works. It's mathematics. More effort, more gain. The more you put inside a machine, the more you get outside of the machine, right? So bigger the problem, bigger the effort. Okay? You see where I'm coming from? And therefore, we assume that the more effort I would put in, the best chance of getting back with my ex. So if we send a message, it needs to be the best message. It needs to be a long 3 to 4 pages letter explaining how much I felt and having a poem and having, really showing yourself in that letter, in that message, because, it needs to be perfect. It needs to be the letter, for example. And we miss the whole point because that's not what your ex wants right now. Your ex wants to take things slowly. And what you're doing right now is using the law of reversed effort, or you're experiencing the law of reversed effort. And you see, there's a lot of moments in your life where we suffer the law of reverse effort. It's basically when the more we resist or we struggle against something, the more it persists. So the more you message your ex, the more they'll push back. One other example in your life, when you sleep, when you want to sleep and you have insomnia, you also have trouble sleeping, and you're in bed and you feel like, I need to sleep. I really need to sleep. Okay, I'm gonna sleep. I need to sleep. The more you repeat that to yourself, the less likely you're able to sleep. Okay, if you want to sleep, you have to think about everything but sleep. So find visualization. I don't do anymore a lot of hypnotherapy to help people do with insomnia, but it's really about how you can visualize things drifting apart. But it's not about sleep. It's about everything but sleep. Weight loss. There's been studies. The reason people struggle with weight loss is because as they deprive themselves from food, they are becoming obsessed by food. Okay, as you have a low intake of calories in your day and you're hungry, then what you do is you're obsessed by food. And so anytime you eat, you feel and you have these cravings for food. So that's fine. When you go on a diet or when you want to lose weight, it's really important to find the balance. There's an amazing book that I recommend if you want to lose weight called Intuitive Eater, which is not a diet book, obviously. It's really about how you can also use. It's a mental exercise. It's really difficult to go on a diet because it's mental. It's not about, of course, losing weight. You eat less calories than you consume, and you're gonna lose weight. But the idea is to really honor the food, to really understand when you're hungry, to really understand when you're full, to really be more mindful when you eat. Okay. Another common example is when you want to impress someone. So when you want to impress someone, when you go over the top, you have this picture. I don't have an idea of a movie, but you can see that person coming up, showing up to the place and being over the top, and people will laugh at that person because he's doing too much. He's trying to impress, and when you try to impress, it's not working. It's actually the opposite. Catching a cat, catching any sort of animals. If you run after a cat, he'll never come. If you wait and call him gently and take your time, he'll come. Your ex is a cat, basically. Getting back with an ex is another thing where the law of reverse effort is definitely in play. That's why you need to change your mindset today and stop thinking like, if she hasn't replied or if he hasn't replied to my message, it's because the message wasn't good. No, stop trying hard. It is not what will bring your ex back. Right now, what you have to do, and I love this quote from Eckhart Tolle, do not be concerned with the fruit of your action. Just pay attention to the action itself. It's the only thing that matters right now. That's what I repeat to my clients, not every day, but it's really about how you can really enjoy the process. There will be an outcome. There will be a result for sure. But the thing is, the thing you can control is the actions you're taking today. And so, of course, you need to take pleasure and enjoyment. And I know it's hard because it's a very difficult situation for you. But use this opportunity to learn more about yourself, to learn more about relationship, to find a therapist, to find someone to talk to discuss some potential insecurities that you haven't had the opportunity to discuss before. But just to pay attention to the action itself. The outcome will come afterwards, don't worry. And it's also linked to the Stoics. And I'm a big advocate of Stoicism. And I think when you study a bit of Stoicism, you realize that more of the self-development books or principles are coming from that. It's the idea that you should only focus on what you can control. And the idea of the mental state are more important than the external events because you can't control those events. There's the theory, or not the theory, but the idea that life is unpredictable and you have to accept that. And there are things you can't control. There are drama. There are things that you would have planned. What you can only focus on in yourself. And so the problem you have when you're depressed, when you're anxious, is that you're not living in the moment. You're always thinking in the future. You're always thinking in the people's mind. You're only anticipating things or sometimes obsessing on things. What you have to do is to accept the present moment and let go. let go of all this tension, let go of all this desire to control. You're not with your ex anymore. And when you are in that, I need to control, I need to understand, I need to let them know. Sometimes I hear my clients telling me, like, they are in a rebound, I know that person is not good for them. I need to tell them, stop trying to control your ex. Right? As soon as you manage to let go of this is how you find peace and happiness. Right? You are your worst enemy, but at the same time, you are the solution. And so the principle of acceptance is key, and it's also part of the grieving process, the last part. It's accepting things the way they are, things that you can't control, and also things that you can manage. And that's what you have to do with, in your case, with therapy or yourself, if you only do it yourself, is how you can increase your circle of control. Right? That's also a principle that is actually coming from the Stoicism movement, from the 7 habits of highly effective people, is how you can increase your level of control and focus on that aspect. Rather than complaining about your ex's rebound or the weather, you can't control that. You can only control your actions, who you're seeing, what you're doing in your day, what you're eating, your sleeping habits, and so on and so forth. Key tips. Let's get to it. And perhaps I'm going to write them down in a comment. Let go of attachment. The more you cling to the idea of getting back with your ex, the less likely it will happen. Simple as that. Focus on your own happiness. That's why it's so important. So important because it's the only thing that you can control. Avoid being needy. Again, being needy, clingy, showing this type of behavior makes things worse. That's why you have to work on building that self-confidence and independence, especially if you're trying to get back with an avoidant. They would want to see someone who is independent. They would want to see someone who's self-confident, who don't need them. Stop trying so hard. As we discussed, the harder you try, the harder it is. Give things time to unfold naturally. Very often with my clients, I tell them, like, take your time. Take your time, it's going to be okay. It's a process. If you don't see them next week, you'll see them the week after. They're not going to forget you. It's very important. Of course, from my point of view, I don't have feelings for my clients' exes. And so it's easier for me to say, no, it's okay. 1 week, you can wait 1 week, you can wait 2 weeks. For them, it's unbearable. But I know that by waiting, you're also showing a form of strength, showing a form of independence. That's really important if you're dating an avoidant, for example. Focus on positive interactions. A lot of people, when they're anxious, when they're depressed, when they're going through difficult times after a breakup, they focus only on the bad things. I'm single, I have a shitty job, I'm alone, I don't eat properly. What you have to do is to find people, positive people. That's why I'm building a community where people will engage with each other, very nurturing. And learn and be sort of in that positive mood, because if you isolate yourself, even though you're watching my videos, which hopefully are helping you to feel a little bit better, that's not really how you can feel better right away. It's really about connection. We are social animals, so it's really through interactions that you'll feel better, but interactions with the right people. So if you have people who are negative in your friends who are negative, or families who are negative, maybe don't see them for a bit and just focus on the positive interaction in life. Work on yourself, personal growth, become the best version of yourself. It's obviously one of the best ways to attract someone. If you are the best version of yourself, your ex will think twice about breaking up with you. Be honest about your feelings. It's obviously so important as a therapist. Really important for you to understand those feelings, accept those feelings. Don't let the feelings drive your behavior, but really deconstruct those things. Last tips is to give space. That's why no contact is important in some cases. They need to process. They need to process the loss. They need to, the same as you process the loss, they need to process their life without you. They need to go through that phase of release after a breakup where they feel like, oh, it's amazing. Finally, I made a decision. But they need to go through that phase alone. Also respect. You want to have and lead this post-breakup in a respectful way, showing them that you're mature, that you could be not closing any doors, obviously, avoid negative behaviors. Again, when you think about manipulation, anger, it's something that we have this impulse to do. We want to tell off our ex. Again, focus on being positive and respectful. Use the law of the grandma law. If your grandmother knows about something that you do or that you're about to do, would she be proud of you? So anytime you're about to make an action, you use like, is my grandmother going to be proud of me if I do it? If she is not going to be, or if you don't feel okay that your grandmother knows about that, don't do it. In effective communication, last but not least, it is so important. Obviously, communication is at the core of any successful relationship, and using effective communication is the only way where you can get an ex back, especially if you have a clash of attachment. Any other tips, any other question you want to ask me, don't hesitate to comment on the video. If you found this video helpful, don't hesitate to like, because it does help me a lot, and I will see you next time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer.